and unsurpassed, penetrating and perfect Dharma is rarely met with, even in 100,000 million kalpas, hardly to see and listen to remember and accept. I vow to taste the truth of the Tathagata's words.
Well, good morning and good afternoon to those who are with us today. We have the honour of a guest speaker, Arno Hess from Brisbane. He is a teacher in the Sambo Zen tradition and has established Pathway, is the founder of Pathway Zen in Brisbane. He's the Dharma heir of Mervyn Lander Roshi and Yamada Rowan Roshi. And he's also established mindfulness-based rehabilitation programs which are used in the prison system in Queensland. So we are very lucky to have you with us today and look forward to hearing you share the Dharma with us.
Thank you, Nettie. Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's lovely to share the Zen teachings with a different group, Canberra group, and I believe some of you are from the United States as well. I'll get straight into it. Today, I'd like to share a poem. I know Jack loves poems, and so poems are always a bit tricky, but this one is very special. It's a very special poem that was written by Shitao in the year 700, so Tang Dynasty. He lived between 700 and 790. And he also wrote that famous poem that we quite often recite in Sesshin, which is Sandokai, the Sandokai one as well. I particularly like this because it gets me to heaven, simple as that. It's a world that he shares. It's a world, it's state of mind that he shares through this poem with us, and he invites us to access that. And as far as I'm concerned, all the teachings are right here in this particular poem. So I'd like to read it out first. It's a little bit long, and then go through it line by line, if I may. So it's called Song of the Grass Hut. I've built a grass hut where there is nothing of value. After eating, I relax and I enjoy a nap. When it was completed, fresh weeds appeared. Now it's been lived in, covered by weeds. The person in the hut lives here calmly, not stuck to inside, outside, or in between. Places worldly people live, he doesn't live. Realms worldly people love, she doesn't love. Though the hut is small, it includes the entire world. In 10 feet square, an old man illuminates forms and their nature. A Mahayana Bodhisattva trusts without doubt. The middling or lowly can't help wondering, will this hut perish or not? Perishable or not, the original master is present, not dwelling south or north, east or west. Firmly based on steadiness, it can't be surpassed. A shining window below the green pines, jade palaces of 1,000,000 towers can't compare with it. Just sitting with head covered, all things are at rest. Thus, this mountain monk doesn't understand at all. Living here, he no longer works to get free. Who would proudly arrange seats trying to entice guests? Turn around the light to shine within, then just return. The vast inconceivable source can't be faced or turned away from. Meet the ancestral teachers, be familiar with their instructions. Bind grasses to build a hut and don't give up. Let go of hundreds of years and relax completely. Open your hands and walk innocent. Thousands of words, myriad interpretations are only to free you from obstructions. If you want to know the undying person in the hut, don't separate from this skin bag here and now. So this is the poem. You can readily find it on the internet if you want to get a copy of it. So let's start off with I've built a grass hut. Starts off with I built a grass hut. Of course, a grass hut, it's an archetypal, almost Taoist type image that we can get, maybe a hermit living there. But in a way, you know, I look at it as the grass hut as a state of mind. So this particular monk has built a state of mind called the grass hut. The state of mind that he has built can be seen and can be interpreted, of course, differently. I mean, a state of mind is embodied physically as well. If we're calm, our emotions are calm as well. So depending on how our state of mind is, really is also a reflection of many aspects, whether that is mental, physical, or emotional as well. Our zendo, you know, our cushion or mat on the floor at home is in a way a grass hut. I build a grass hut can be alive. You know, I build a grass hut can be a lifestyle. There's many ways we can look at this grass hut, and we can dream a little bit about this if we like. Now it goes on and he gets straight to the point. This is one of the things I love very much about Zen, is to get straight to the heart, to the matter of it. He says, where there is nothing of value. Whoa, what a statement. Where there is nothing of value. I build a grass hut where there is nothing of value. That is very challenging. You know, a state of mind where there is nothing of value. It's almost incomprehensible. You know, but the reason it is incomprehensible is because, you know, we can't see it, because we are trapped in value. We are trapped in a hierarchy where we value. What's more valuable, the mosquito or our kids? What's more valuable, you know, our car or a chair? You know, we have this hierarchy that we constantly engage in, that we value. Some of you may know Maslow, you know, a famous transpersonal psychology who came up with the hierarchy of needs. And there's a whole hierarchy there that we follow even unconsciously that relates to values. So here he says, I've built a grass hut, a state of mind, you know, where there is nothing of value. Nothing of value. When I teach quite often, especially newcomers, the instructions is to let go. And people ask me, and I remember myself, you know, sitting in the Zendo, when my teacher said, let go, and I was like, well, what am I supposed to let go of? I'm letting go. I'm sitting, I'm moving, I'm doing all these things. What am I supposed to do here? I am letting go, you know. But really, you know, letting go is also letting go of value. Letting go of all the things that I love, letting go to all the things that I hang on to. Of course, many analogies in Buddhism, like impermanence, and the many teachings relating to all of this. But it's a very challenging proposition. You know, I build a grass hut where there is nothing of value. The way to see this, of course, is getting to a point where there is no separation. And this is the key. If I can have a state of mind or an experience where there is no separation, me and other falling away, then value disappears. Value disappears because everything is it itself. It's not that everything is the same. That's a different thing again. Everything is the same. It's like there's two things that are the same. But everything is it itself. That is very powerful. And that is a realization, we call it in Zen, maybe achieved through Kensho experience or deep insight. And that is nothing other than this grass hut where there is nothing of value that the poet Shitta was talking about. No separation. He then goes on and see where he is now. He goes on, he says, after eating, so he's built this grass hut nothing of value. After eating, I relax and enjoy a nap. Again, what a wonderful state of mind. He doesn't sit for 24/7. He's not up on a high mountain hermitage resting in emptiness where he just sees there's no separation. He finishes his sit, he goes to the kitchen table, he makes his lunch, and he enjoys a nap. Or he goes to work, or he plays with his kids, or he drives the car to the shopping center to get tonight's dinner, or he cooks it, or whatever it is, whatever our day-to-day activity is, that flows on from that beautiful image of no separation. Nothing special, in other words, nothing special. Then it goes on. When it was completed, in other words, when he's had his insight of no separation, of no value. Another way, by the way, of looking at no value is poverty. In the Bible, even, blessed are the poor, for they shall inherit the earth. Or they shall go to heaven. I forget now which one it is, which is nothing other than that. Poor, as in so poor, there is no one else. There's nothing else there. Being able to you could say that the degree to which I am poor and have no value is the degree to which we are really rich, as well. So this is another way of looking at it. But when it was completed, in other words, when he had that insight, fresh weeds appeared. That's what he's saying. Fresh weeds appeared. What does that mean? Fresh weeds appeared. You could say new values appeared. So he had this insight of no value, of poverty, of no separation. And when he had that, separation appeared, new values appeared. There it was, all around him. All around him, fresh weeds appeared. And this refers to the functioning mind. The functioning mind, our discursive mind, our choosing mind, our picking and choosing, our opinions, they just appear. You could say our karma. Our karma keeps coming back. It keeps playing its role, and it keeps rolling along, no matter whether it's wholesome or unwholesome. That's what it does. Fresh weeds appeared. The other way of looking at that is, once we've established and realized no duality, which is no separation, guess what? Duality appears everywhere. Being stuck in one or the other, is a disease, as we say in Zen. And this is what he's referring to. Now, he said, it's, meaning the hut, been lived in. In other words, I've had this state of mind all the time. It's covered by weeds, not just a little weed. It's covered by weeds. He no longer differentiates. That famous saying in Mahayana Buddhism, nirvana is samsara. Samsara is nirvana. Going back into the marketplace of the weeds, living in the world of form, living in the world like the lotus in muddy water, as you may have heard, no doubt. The lotus being the symbol of enlightenment, and the muddy waters being the weeds, being the duality, being the references. So it's a state of mind where you realize that there is absolutely no separation. There is absolutely no duality. And within that context, our functioning mind, divides, because that is what it does. That is how we function. That is how we communicate, even though it doesn't exist. And that is a foundation. That is a beautiful, mature practice for someone that can say that, for someone that can establish that. The person in the hut, he goes on, the person in the hut lives here calmly. In other words, lives here calmly, totally grounded in this non-separation. Totally grounded in this non-separation. So even though we see it all the time, even though we see all the wrong, there is no wrong. Even though we see all the injustices, there is no injustice. Um, Again, very difficult to see, but this is what this monk is seeing. And that gives him enormous strength, that gives him enormous peace. And from that peace, he engages. He engages in that world of injustice, if he chooses to do so. Not stuck, it goes on, not stuck to inside, outside, or in between. He's no longer trapped. Even though there is duality and separation all around him, he is no longer trapped by it. He sees it for what it is, no separation. He sees it exactly the way it is, no duality at all. He is no longer trapped by it. Um, Places, goes on, places worldly people live, he doesn't live. So I think that what this refers to is again, the state of mind and changing of priorities. We can very easily, depending on how we see things, live in a certain world. We all live in the same world, of course, but we may live in a world that is governed by greed, hatred, delusions, or we may live in a world that is governed by peace, by contentment. Some of us come here on a Sunday and sit. Some of us go in a park and play. Some of us sit in front of the computer and try and figure out the stock market. Some of us are doing other things. It's a matter of seeing what we want to do, being clear of what we want to do. So he's saying places worldly people live in, he doesn't live. Realms worldly people love, she doesn't love. So that is what happens. Once we see this, priorities change. The realms, by the way, in Buddhism, there are different realms. And the only way I make sense out of those realms is referring them back again to states of mind. So the realm, for instance, of earth, that duality, where that samsara, that cyclic life, the realm of heaven is being able to see that there is no duality. The realm of the hungry ghosts and the realm of the other demons, these are our shadows that they haunt us, in our daily life. These are not realms that are somehow otherworldly. Our shadows follow us around all the time. Even the Buddha, right before his enlightenment, he was visited by Mara. In other words, that critical voice that continuously criticizes, that continuously doubts, that continuously tries to put a spanner in the work, that is always with us. That aspect of greed that comes in all the times, tries to somehow dominate or gives us some sense of insecurity. These are the shadows that we live with. Of course, some people more so than others. But here, the way I understand this is realms worldly people love, she doesn't love. In other words, she has had a taste of the heavenly realm, which is the realm where there is no separation, which is that grass hut where there is nothing of value. That is a realm that we can access. That is a realm that we can taste. That is a realm that, of course, we access through different degrees, depending on our level of awareness. But it is certainly a realm that is actually not that difficult to attain, especially if we are persistent in our sitting and in our meditation. Um, so this is another way of looking at that. Though the hut is small, it includes the entire world. Though the hut is small, it includes the entire world. Again, a state of mind. Um, this is a state of mind that even William Blake, in his famous poem, he said, to see a world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wildflower, holding infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. That is that world. It's the world where Shakyamuni Buddha made that famous statement, I alone am the honored one. I alone, not me alone am the honored one, as in me, little me. But I alone, there is nothing else but I alone. There is nothing else. There is no other. There is just I alone. There's just alone. You don't even have to say I. There's just alone. There's just poverty. There's just one existence. So we know ourselves. That this is that though the hut is small, it includes the entire world. It includes the entire existence, you could say. So being able to see that is it's quite an achievement. And we are invited, of course, in our practice to go to that place where we can realize this. In 10 feet square, he goes on. In 10 feet square, an old man illuminates forms and their nature. Beautifully, at 10 feet square, an old man illuminates forms and their nature. Silence, cushion, sitting, birdsong, stomach grumbling, yearnings, fear, anxiety, the moon, the stars, mountains, rivers. That's what he sees. Nothing other than one existence, nothing other than himself. In 10 feet square, an old man illuminates forms and their nature. Computer, faces. What a beautiful state of mind. A Mahayana Bodhisattva, it goes on, trusts without doubt. A Mahayana Bodhisattva trusts without doubt. This trusting means we've abandoned knowledge. You can only trust like that if you can let go of it, let go of relativity. Because relativity comes in and always pops up with something different, something other, something contradictory, another face. Without doubt is another realm. It's that realm of not knowing. Being in that space of totally letting go. So that is, to me, that is the way I look at without doubt. The Mahayana Bodhisattva trusts without doubt, and that happens when we see that, when we see this world of no separation. There is no doubt. All of a sudden, life and death disappears. It is a refuge. I relate that to the refuges, the 3 refuges. It is a refuge we can access, no doubt. Buddha awakening, Sangha community. All of these elements, Dharma, the Dharma, not just the teachings, but the realized Dharma. All without doubt. The Mahayana Bodhisattva trusts without doubt. It's not something we need to do. When we see that world, it just does it itself. It appears. There's nothing contrived here, or I need to trust something. That is not the level. It is a level that is beyond that. It is a reference point to an experience that we have tasted. Even though we might fall out of that experience, in other words, we might fall out of the awareness of it. Once tasted, we know that it exists, and that trust is unbreakable. Trusts without doubt. The middling, or lowly, it goes on, can't help wondering, will this hut perish or not? Will it perish? Will our state of mind perish? In other words, what is this hut actually? I call it a state of mind, but even that doesn't say, this doesn't nail it. So it says here, the middling or lowly can't help wondering, will this hut perish or not? Again, a wonderful question. Another way of looking at that where it might make sense is, can reality ever be killed? What is reality? Can this, as we often say, can this ever perish? Of course, as long as I'm trapped even in the duality of me and other, then I exist and I don't exist. But with no separation, even the concept of life and death falls apart. Not just for me, but for reality. How can there be life and death? Again, it's something that, of course, we hang on to, especially that we value. It's probably one of the, right on top of the hierarchy of values is our life. So this question goes right to that point, the middly and lowly. In other words, those that haven't seen it, those that are not aware, can't help wondering, will this hut perish or not? Then it goes on, perishable or not, the original master is present, not dwelling south, north, east, or west. So he gives us his answer, saying perishable or not. Perishable is again a concept. Perishable. What can perish? If I eat an orange, does that orange perish? Where is the orange? If I eat an orange, it just keeps on living and giving. It's just continuously, we say, transformed, but actually it's not even transformed. It is it itself, just by a different name. I am nothing but last night's dinner and the dinner before that. What am I made up of? What is everything made up of? There's not even transformation taking place. Everything is it itself at all times. Right now, right here, not in the past, not in the future, and even right here. It just is it all the time. Perishable or not, the original master is present, not dwelling south, north, east, or west. I once flew from Sydney to Brisbane, and I had this experience where all of a sudden I realized that I can never ever be anywhere else. It was really amazing. It's like, even though I was mid-flight and looking down the window, I could see the landscape sort of disappearing underneath underneath the wings, so to speak. But we cannot be anywhere else. We are always here. Geography has got nothing to do with it. Time has got nothing to do with it. We are always here. Perishable or not, the original master, in other words, our true self, what we really are. I alone, not dwelling south or north or east or west. Firmly based on steadiness. It can't be surpassed. Firmly based on steadiness. There's nothing more steady than that. It can't be, not it shouldn't be, or I hope it will be. It can't be surpassed. There's a famous koan, it's considered one of the most difficult koans in the curriculum, and it's right there at the beginning of the miscellaneous koans. The Buddha made of wood cannot go through fire. If he does, he shall surely burn. The Buddha made of wood cannot go through fire. If he does, he shall surely burn. It's a realization that needs to be had, and the realization, of course, it's easy to say, but it's not that easy to get and to see, is there is no distinction between Buddha, wood, and fire. That's why you cannot surpass it. You cannot go through it. There's no going through, because we are it at every stage, all the time. Ash, Buddha, fire, nothing but one existence. And this is what he's talking about. It can't be so fast. So firmly based in steadiness, in other words, his grass hut, his state of mind, he is seeing that world. He is that steady in it. It cannot be surpassed. He can be amongst the fire, in the fire. He can be in the middle of the Ukraine war. And he realizes that actually all of it cannot be surpassed. One of my favorite sayings is, it doesn't get better than this. This is that same sort of, it does not get better than this, whatever it is. We tend to want it better. We want to have enlightenment, or we want to have whatever it is that what our goals are. But actually, it can never ever get better than this. Another way of looking at that is when you go to the supermarket, everything is the best. There's no second best. Everything is each other. That is what this refers to. He goes on, just sitting with head covered, all things are at rest. Just sitting with head covered, all things are at rest. The key word here is not sitting. The key word is just. Just walking, all things are at rest. Just eating, all things are at rest. Just sleeping. Doesn't matter what other words you hang on to this. It's just. It doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter what concepts we hang on to it. It doesn't matter where we go. It doesn't matter what we teach. Just is really that justice. Just sitting with head covered, all things are at rest. And of course, that is what Zazen is. Zazen is not, as Dogen so famously said, is not just sitting on the cushion. It is the Dharma gate, the whole existence. As practitioners, that is what we access. Hopefully we access that world through our practice. Thus, this mountain monk doesn't understand at all. Wonderful thing. He's no longer trapped by understanding or by duality. Understanding falls in that realm of duality, of separation, of needing to get this clarification through language or logic. Thus this mountain monk doesn't understand at all. Living here, he no longer works to get free. That's another great line. Living here, he no longer works to get free. Once that world has been tasted, freedom is nothing but a concept. Living here, he no longer works to get free. The only time we want to get free is when we're not free. I mean, that seems pretty obvious. But it's like living here, he no longer works to get free. Again, it's a state of mind that we can taste. At that moment, we just laugh. Freedom is like, what do you mean? You cannot be but free. Because everything is itself. As long as I identify and self-reference myself as separate, I am not free. It is really that state of mind that has let go. And that letting go and this realization that we are nothing other but the entire existence, that is freedom. And once that has been had, no longer work to get free. Who would proudly, he goes on, who would proudly arrange seats trying to entice guests? Like, who would proudly arrange seats trying to entice guests? Guests can be seen as separation. It's like sitting here and I'm inviting in separation. Okay, you can come in, you can come in, you can come in. So I'm inviting all in this separation. But once I know that there is no separation, I can no longer invite separation. Of course, we can, of course we see separation from the perspective of separation, or we can see duality from the perspective of both non-duality and duality. But once we have tasted that world, We are freely mingling in the dust, freely mingling with all the separations in the world, me and you and computer, and knowing that there is no such thing. Who would invite it? You would no longer invite it. There's no need to. There's actually nothing there. This is what he's referring to. Now he says, turn around the light and shine within. Turn around the light. Now don't look outside for this realization. Turn the light within, which is our practice. Turn the light within. Turn the light within. This is what we do when we sit. Turn the light within, and then just return, meaning go back to the marketplace. Then just go back, realize there's non-duality, and go back into the duality. Realize that there is no delusion, and go back into the delusions. They're just words that we use in order to discriminate. If we don't discriminate, without discrimination, without words, I couldn't talk to you right now. It is a very essential functional part of who we are. Turn the light within, then just return. Come back and be real. Be normal. No need to be sensic, as we say. No need to be on the 100-foot pole. The vast, inconceivable source can't be faced or turned away from. Of course, there's the source. What is the source? The vast, inconceivable source can't be faced or turned away from. So the vast, inconceivable source, of course, is nothing other than myself. I remember before Zen, I was a Christian, and the biggest barrier I had for me seeing all of this was separating the source from me. There was a God out there and me here. But once that separation dropped, once that me and you, that God and I, or whatever, Buddha, even Buddha or Allah, whatever it is that we create as a barrier, that's what we do. We create these barriers, these symbols, if you like, of essential nature, and that can be even the symbol of Buddha. Once we still have that symbol, we haven't let go. We still see that barrier. So the vast inconceivable source can't be faced or turned away from. We can't get out of it or into it. It can't be faced because why? We are it. We are it. Can't face it. I can't turn away from it. I'm it. This is what this refers to. It goes on. Meet the ancestral teacher. Be familiar with their instructions. So here it's an invitation to meet the ancestral teacher. Again, we can look at that as maybe the Zen teacher, but this is not what it's meant either. Meet the ancestral teacher. It's nothing other than the true self, our true self. And of course, teachers, whether it's Zen teachers or any other teachers, are nothing other than a manifestation of that. Be familiar with their instructions, an invitation to follow. If you want to see that world, follow the path. It has been shown over and over again as working. If we keep on the path, it will work. We can get there. We do not need to be holy to do it. In our day-to-day life, incorporating our practice within a householder lineage is what we do. We can see that. Let go. Oh, sorry, it goes on. Bind grasses to build a hut and don't give up. Bind the grasses is putting in the hard yards. Bind the grasses and don't give up. Let go of hundreds of years and relax completely. Letting go of hundreds of years, it's like all that accumulated karma, the teachings, the burden of injustice that I cannot let go. I know people that are burdened by great injustice. You look at right now in Canberra, that I forget her name, Higgins, I think the lady's name is. The burden of something wrong being done will flavor an entire life. You know, not being able to let go it's like that burden is unbelievably hard to bear. And so even in our own situation, we need to ask ourselves, what burden am I carrying? You know, and letting go is just like that. We can let go like that. You know, the of course it's not easy, and we need to be at a certain stage to be able to do that. But nevertheless, that burden is huge, and our practice is a practice of doing that. So bind grasses to build a hut. Don't give up. Let go of hundreds of years. Let go of our karma. Let go of our karma. In other words, cause and effect. That's a huge one. And relax completely. Just be in that space. Relax completely. Open your hands and walk innocent. Open your hands and walk innocent. Innocent to me means no self-reference. That's innocent. As long as I have self-reference, that it's sticky. There's something sticky, something that knows, something that wants it to be a certain way. Innocent like a child, not self-conscious. You know, open your hands and walk innocent. Thousands of words that goes on, myriad interpretations are only to free you from obstructions. You know, all these teachings, all this, you know, of course we can get lost in them, but they are only to free you from instructions. Zen is one of the very precious, traditions where we sit, where we don't really put too much emphasis on teaching, because it can easily become an academic exercise. We don't see it then. If you want to know the undying person in the hut, like if you want to know the undying person, just get your head around that. The undying person, in other words, your true self in the hut. Don't separate from this skin bag here and now. Don't separate from this skin bag here and now.
Thank you so much, Arno, for such an inspiring, illuminating talk. I think we have time for maybe one or two questions. Is it possible for us to see the whole screen, see everybody, so I can call on people if they... Yep, there we go. So if anyone in the Zendo or on Zoom, in the Zoom Zendo, would like to ask Arno a question, just do a gasho and I'll call on you. Sarah.
Thank you so much. That was amazing, very helpful. So I have a quick question. I come from a Christian background too. And one thing that I still do is I often find myself praying to the God out there. And I do that because a lot of times I feel like I don't have any control. And so what can I do? So I think, well, I'll pray and maybe that will be a benefit. So I was wondering, out of your practice and sort of like, what do you do, or how did that change, or you know what I mean? I don't know exactly what the question is, but I think you know what I mean.
I do very much know what you mean. It's a very good question. I get asked that a lot, actually. First of all, in my own experience, when I had an experience where someone said to me, this was before my Zen life, if you like, but Arno, don't you realize you are God? And whoa, at that moment, something happened. I let go. And that has changed my Christianity, if you like, that at that moment. I realized all of a sudden that there was no separation to some degree. Maybe not as clearly as some other experiences, but there was definitely a shift taking place. And at that moment, I could no longer pray. I've always had a problem with prayer, simply because I knew that God was only wanted the best for us. And yet, when I wanted something like praying for that the war stops in the Ukraine, why didn't He just stop the war in the Ukraine? You know, there was always that sort of fundamental question that does not seem to be get answered in Christianity. And so in Buddhism, of course, you know, the experience to some degree answers that question. But it needed for me to let go of God as an intermediary. And that was a very painful process because I was really attached to God. It was a very, very painful. It took years actually. And in the end, it was through Zen that I found help, because there all of a sudden I could see answers that I couldn't see before. Certainly not in the Christian tradition itself. But today I look at it differently again. Today prayer is actually quite important. And the reason it's important is because we know through mindfulness that we are continuously rewiring our brain, and we can't help but being conditioned. So if I see an unwholesome aspect in my life, the way to counter that is by turning it around and making it wholesome. So even in our meditation practice, if I get distracted in my meditation practice, then I am forcing myself to put the distraction away and actually focus on something else. So I go from an unwholesome, meaning, you know, a distraction practice, to a wholesome, meaning concentration. That is a form of prayer. I'm changing one for the other. You know, even though my unwholesomeness may still continue. In other words, those distractions keep on coming back. In prison, for instance, we do a similar thing whereby we don't call it prayer, we call it positive thinking. You are visualizing a positive end result that is wholesome, you know, and that is a form of prayer. You know, and whether you now have God there in between or not doesn't actually matter. It doesn't matter. But if your child is sick, or you want peace in the world, there's nothing wrong with seeing that in your head. That's the way I look at it now. And even though it is the way it is, everything is, but so is visualizing that it should be different. That also is included in it as well. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's the way I
Thank
look at
you.
it. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I think we'll finish here, and the last part is we chant the Bodhisattva vows. Then everyone also on Zoom's invited to get up and do 3 prostrations. And then when we finish, we stand in a circle at the back of the Zendo and bring one of the laptops back, and everyone can unmute and say hello informally if they'd like to. So please stay for those few minutes if you can, and join us with the chanting.
Beings are numberless, I vow to save them. Delusions are inexhaustible, I vow to win them. Dharma gates are boundless, I vow to enter them. Buddha's ways unsurpassable, I vow to become it.
you want to hold the
Okay.
I don't have selfie one, so I can actually.
Oh. So,
Hello. Hello. Great to see you all.
I'll swing around. I want to swing so they can see some of the outside. There we go. Some of the trees. Anyway.
They're beautiful.
Looks like you've got a lovely weather over at Canberra.
We do. Thank you so much for your talk, Arno, and for everyone else for joining in. There's someone I've not met before, Genevieve. Hello. I'm Nettie, and this is some of our Canberra Sangha.
Thank you for a magnificent talk, Arno.
Thank you, Jack. Yes.
Really appreciate it.
All right, well, have a good rest of your day and a good evening for you, Sarah, and see you all next time.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.